Taking ordinary steps every day makes all the difference in learning to love the artist within. Just the simple task of putting one foot in front of the other seems painstakingly difficult when faced with fear, depression, anxiety, and low self-worth. It may seem as if we're not making monumental change in the moment with the simple decision of putting one foot in front of the other, but we are. Taking ordinary steps leads to extraordinary change. Hi, I'm Amy. As we talk with our next guest, there were certainly times in his life where shifting perspective, facing fear, and finding his superpower were the keys to his survival. But he chose to do more than survive. He chose to thrive. Let's meet Glenn Proctor, 40-year journalist, Pulitzer Prize winner, author, Marine Gunner Sergeant, Vietnam vet, leadership coach, mental health advocate. Those are just some of his accomplishments. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us when you first began to love the artist in yourself?
Well, I started writing poetry when I was 8, and I didn't know it was poetry. I didn't know what it was. I was just writing, about my experience as a foster kid, and and growing up. And then as that continued, I wrote about my alcohol situation. I wrote about being in the Marines, being in war. So it kind of kept progressing into all my life experiences, and my life experiences, but what I also seen and heard, as a journalist, as a Black man in America.
How did you go from writing poetry at an early age to now being the author of 5 books?
It all begins with belief. Jesse Jackson said it's kind of a, it's a cliche, but it's out there, but if you don't believe it, you can't achieve it. And it's true. You have to believe. You have to believe that you can do this. You have to believe that you can do this. You have to believe you're gonna get out of the mud. And I'm talking about combat boots and a rifle. All of us are afraid at some point or another. That part I will absolutely agree with, but we absolutely have to believe. When I started my career, once I kind of, got my legs under it, I had 3 goals: teach college journalism, win a Pulitzer, and be a top editor. I did all 3. I may not be the smartest guy in the room, but I know what works. If that old thing about using 5% of our brains, well, that means 95%. And especially for us as creatives, we're wasting 95% of our creative brain. That's crazy. That's crazy. So, we just need to step out there and believe that we can. We're all here. The good brother gives us whatever time, he gives us, and, and we got to do it. We got to make the most of it,
If I can address, or can I address some of the hardships that you might have gone through? I read in your bio, the alcoholism, the trauma, the suicide prevention, what led you to be a coach and teacher in this QPR at Mental Health America. Could we talk about what was going on then?
Survivor's remorse. Every time I go to DC, I try to go to the wall, or if the wall is a traveling wall, it's been in North Carolina and South Carolina in the last couple of years. And, 58,479 folks are on that wall, and I'm not there, and that, that has always bothered me. And I, wonder why. Um, but I guess, people say, well, you're around for a greater purpose. And, I guess I'm cool with that. Um, but during the time I was, drinking heavy, I mean, I would have, all kind of ideations and, like you're no good and what the hell are you doing? And, all that kind of stuff. And, and the night that I was on a binge all day long. I didn't go to work, and I had gotten in trouble a bunch of times for not going to work or slowing up or showing up late, and got suspended once or twice. And then on the day that kind of my reckoning, I was out all day on a bender and, drank all day. And I had custody of my two oldest kids, but I had a woman that would come in and take care of them. But, I got home that night, probably about 10 o'clock, totally wasted. The kids were settled. And, another Marine who had become a counselor, I had been talking to him for a while and, and couldn't get to sleep, got home and took my drunk ass up the steps and couldn't go to sleep. And called him, said, Paul, you need to come. And he's like, okay, the kids are going to be okay. I said, yeah, the lady that takes care of them, she'll take care of them. And he came like an hour and a half later. He said, just pack some stuff. And he took me to, Lorraine Hospital in Ohio. Well, we were in Ohio, and 30 days, that was my rehab. And that was March 1984. And haven't had a drink since.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. What happened inside that made you decide to have a shift in perspective?
Well, I want to live and I'm screwing this life up. And like I said, I was a single parent at the time. And, I'm like, I'm screwing up the kids, I'm screwing up myself, my health, my career, I mean, all of that, and I'm like, you got to do better. You got to do better. I mean, my fingers are, and toes get like numb real fast, even if it's like 40, 30, 35 degrees, because my fingers were frostbitten, slightly frostbitten because I woke up passed out in 8 to 10 degree weather, and basically slept, on these concrete steps from the time I passed out until, dew and light hit me in the face at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 or whatever it was. I mean, it was in the dead of winter. And, and it's like, that's stuff that you think about and you're like, you should be dead.
In these interviews, loving the artist within and hearing your story, and you set goals and you accomplish them. And now you're here, you're author, you have this huge list of credentials. But how hard was it? How hard was it? Now it seems so easy to reflect on, but when you're in it, when you're in it, as some artists might be in it right now, or some people in general, creatives, when you're in it, how hard is it?
It's very hard. It's extremely hard. As an entrepreneur, it's hard, and I tell entrepreneurs that every day, you got to get up every day and work your ass off. And when I was coming up, people looking like me weren't necessarily getting all those cool jobs and getting promoted, as they should have. So yes, very, very hard, but do you believe that you can reach the goal? Do you believe that, there's going to be roadblocks in front of you? I mean, take the Marine adage, Marines don't want to go around, Marines don't want to go over, Marines want to go through, break the damn door down, and that's, and that's one of the things that, I've tried to do, in my journalism career and, and as an entrepreneur, it's like, and again, everybody's not going to like our work, but guess what? There are those that will, and those are the folks that we focus on.
Yep, that's true. So can you talk to us as an author and a leadership coach and as a, accomplished person that you are, how rules apply and how do we kick them to the curb?
Well, I would start with, what do we want? That sounds very simplistic, but what do we want? Do we want X, Y, Z? And, and with the ideas, I mean, yes, all of us have 100 ideas, but we can only execute 2 or 3. And that's one of the things that, I talk about is, we all overthink everything. And then of course, when our minds are on runaway, we have all these, a myriad of, all these thoughts and conversations, and then we end up with nothing, because that voice comes in and kills all the ideas, all the thoughts, and, but we get 2 or 3 cogent ideas and start working with those and set goals, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I mean, people are like, oh, well, by next year. No, maybe by next week, maybe by 2 weeks from now, maybe a month from now, do this and write them down. It may be, just walking 2 blocks, as opposed to a mile. But, I mean, we talk about everything begins with 1 step, and, and that is true, and just like, in, AA and some of the substance abuse scenarios, 1 step at a time. And, and that's, because one thing I teach is, the goals are too high, and the goals are scary. Oh my God, by next year I'll have 2 books written. No, by next month you'll have 10 pages written, and that's one thing I find, once the goal is set too high, people ended up abandoning the goal because it scares the hell out of them. You can set goals, but just watch the level of goals that you're setting and don't make them astronomical, because otherwise they're going to scare the hell out of you. You're not going to do them.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of your slogan about ego. Can you tell us a little bit about your definition of ego? What does that stand for?
Well, energy. It's the slogan of REDDjobb, my company. Energy gets opportunity. The more energy we have, the more opportunities we will get. But, if you work hard, there's no guarantee, but you'll be in a better place than if you didn't work hard, and if you didn't push buttons. I always said throughout my journalism career that I'm going to work harder. I'm going to be a better reporter. I'm going to be a better editor. I'm going to understand this whole thing about leading a team. And of course I got some of that in the Marines, but you have to, don't be afraid of what is ahead of you. Never be afraid of what's ahead of you, and believe that you can get to this step, and then the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. and if you look at it that way, you can succeed. But I just believe that, hard work and pushing buttons, pushing your own self-leadership buttons, that's what can, take you up the ladder.
Yes, I agree. And taking those ordinary steps, those everyday, just putting one foot in front of the other sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes depression felt as if I was in a dark room, like there was no way that I could get out.
Yep.
But just making those ordinary choices to take a shower today, to go outside today, to write a sentence today, to write 2 sentences. And then you find over the course of time, you're healing yourself, you're finding your superpower, you're recovering, and you're creating all at the same time. And you're achieving the goals that your brain has been saying, oh, nope, you can't do. See, you're sitting here again today. See?
Well, I all those things I call self-leadership. And, and when, I talk about that, people are like, I'm like, from, when you get up and, when you get dressed and, how you look when you go in public, all, simple, so-called normal activities of life, but those are so important.
How can an artist decide to thrive instead of just survive?
Well, the other thing on my website signature, if you don't create your own direction, others will help you stay lost.
Oh, yes. That's good. That's really good.
It goes back to, what do you want? Because that has to be a self-leadership decision, not a family member, not even your business partner or spouse, or what does that person want? Believe, focus, plan, and execute. Those 4.
Those are the pillars of.
Yep.
Excellent. Talk a little bit about your pillars real quick.
Well, you believe, if you don't believe it, well, it's kind of out the window right there. You have to believe it first. I mean, I always say belief is 90%, because if you totally believe, nothing's going to stop you. Nothing's going to stop you, and then of course, once you believe, you laser beam your mind, into it. This is what I'm going to focus on. And then you write your steps down to plan, and then you follow your plan. And your plan can be revised 100 times, but it's written down. And so you have a template, you have a baseline from which to go. And, and then you execute, and as you, and there's where, in some cases, you're building the plane as you fly it. You're executing. I mean, when you're starting a business, or, you don't know everything, even if you've been in it for a while, you still don't know everything. And so, you have to, keep changing, revising, the situation time and time again. And not being afraid of that, not being wedded to, just like our writing, you write a first draft. Well, you can't fall in love with that. You have to rewrite it. When I was teaching journalism, I always used to tell my students, we would write something at the beginning of the semester, and then maybe at the 6-week mark, or some midway mark, I'd like go back and read what you wrote. And, majority would like, this is schlock. I don't like this. And they would rewrite it.
It's shifting your perspective, always being willing and able to shift.
Yep.
Shift.
Yep. Yeah. Well, like I say in the book, it's change. It's the change. It's change. It's change. And, we may not like change in every aspect, but it's coming no matter what, and the key is, are we prepped for it? Are we prepped, whether, we have our material supplies, or we have our mental supply, our mindset, because something is going to come after this.
Mindset.
Yep.
It's all about the mindset. Could you leave us with 3 things writers could do, or artists could do, when faced with a creative block?
Love your creativity. And what that means is believe in it. Believe in your creativity. Practice your creativity. Don't put it aside. And just believe that if you believe in it, somebody else will. Just love your art, whatever it is. Just love it. Yes, will it be revised or rewritten or all of that? Yes, but love the process of the creating the art or the writing, or, whatever your creative genre is, love it, and, and put your heart and your soul and your feet into it.
It's like you don't have to be a famous artist. You
Nope.
just have to be an effective artist.
Yep. I like that. You can use that one.
I'll certainly credit you for that. That's awesome.
No judgment. No judgment. No judgment. No judgment. That little thing in our heads says we can't. Distractions, waiting, and fear. Distractions, waiting, and fear. Don't allow them to be your friends.
Thanks for watching. I'll close with this. After our interview, Glenn sent me a postscript in which he said, "A person who learns how to change knows how to live and thrive." Learning to love oneself and one's art is a tremendous change. And being able to change is a superpower.